think we're friends by now, right? I gotta be honest. Christians scare me. Like, they actually terrify me at times. As I have been on YouTube and I'm like, okay, God done called me to do this entrepreneur thing. That's cute. But I also am a believer. That's lovely. You want me to speak about that? Cool. Except, yo, people be eating people up all day. Like, that's what they do. I just wanted to talk about it. One, I think when we talk about our fears, they get off your back. And I need this one gone, for real. I've talked to God about it. I've talked to my friends about it. Trusted people, my counselor. But I just wanted to come on here and share, because there might be other Christian creatives who feel the same thing. And I want you to know you are not alone. So let's talk about it. Christians are scary, and they can be scary because of this one keyword, judgment. Judgment can make you feel that you aren't supposed to do things because people say you can't, because they say you shouldn't be able to do them, because they don't understand how you're doing them, because God didn't tell them that you're supposed to do that, right? There could just be a myriad of ways and things that could make us feel that what we got going on is wrong. And it's not because the Holy Spirit convicted you on something. It's not because your pastor just preached about that on Sunday and you was like, dang. It's not because you read something in your word that says it. It's because it's not the Christian flow. I think that gets really dangerous if you are like me and you start to question if you should be doing things at all, or you halt yourself from stepping out. You stop yourself from sharing things, or you start to wonder about, you know what I'm saying, what the faith really got going on, because I'm not ready for this piece. And what I've done has been like, okay, we're not giving the spirit of fear, but a power of love, a sound mind. I know that. And Jesus got scrutinized by the Pharisees. I know that when you step out and do something, there's gonna be some flack that you might catch, right? There are gonna be some people that disagree, and it doesn't have to be because you on some false prophet and you off. It's like, no, they just grew up different than you. They have a different background than you. They have a different experience today, present day, than you do. Their mama told them something else, right? Their church does something different. All of these things, it can really make you avoid. I'm an avoider. Okay, if there's something that is just not given, I ain't gonna give myself to it. And God's calling me out of that. And it's like, I need you to show up and I will provide along the way. And that means that I'm not gonna know everything before I show up. And that is a sobering thought. It's a scary thought. It's a thought that makes me trust God more, because I'm not gonna know everything. And if I can keep it a buck, that's scary, because I want to know that when I put out something, it's gonna be a hit. I want to know that I'm gonna help people. I want to know that I'm just in this beautiful body of people that all believe in the same God, and we all do the same thing, and we all whatever. And it's just not true. And if that were the case, then the beautiful word that I read that inspired me so much this morning to even turn my camera on, okay, would have had one writer, one author would have written the whole thing. But that's not how it works. God speaks to different people. He gives them different directives. He gives them different jobs, different principalities, different people to impact, and we're supposed to show up in different ways. They wear different clothes, they speak in different tones, different languages, and they do different things, so he gets his glory in different ways. When we allow judgment from the outside, other people, to come in and dictate what we do, it pulls us further from who God has actually called us to be, what he's actually trying to reveal in us, in our community, and in the earth. And so that is why it can get real tricky when we allow what believers and non-believers, but this video specifically is about believers, allow what other believers are doing to dictate how you walk out your faith, how you walk out your directives that you've been given from God. And it starts to get real tricky. And I don't think that that is what the Father calls us to do. And when I think about why, like, right, I was like, because I'm telling y'all, this has been eating me up. So I was like, why is this like that anyway? Why do people tell you unsolicited advice? Why do they feel like if you're not Christianing their way, then you shouldn't be doing it at all, or that you're wrong. Why is that? And I think one key reason, inner judgment. And I think that I've definitely been in a place where I'm hard on myself, where I'm like, okay, this is the bar, this is the mark, and if you don't hit that, you're off. If you don't hit that, you need to reconfigure some things. There are moments when, even though we are made in the image of Christ, we are to live our lives for Christ. We ain't Christ. Please note, we are not God. We'll never be Jesus, and which is why we need him. We need him because he's the only one that could do what he do it. He do it well. He don't need no backup. He don't need no help. Okay? Because of that, there have been times where I'm judging myself based on this mark, this perfection that I'll never meet. If you are a believer and you have got yourself so much in a place where you have made it where you don't want to have to receive grace, you don't want to have to receive forgiveness, you don't want to have to repent because you're perfect, you'll fail every time. And we can get taught that. And so when we are taught that, or if we just naturally kind of pick that up ourselves, I actually don't know if I was taught that. I think that I just want to not fail. And so because I don't want to fail, and because I want to be self-sufficient, that would mean that I'm perfect, because then I wouldn't need Jesus, right? And so I think that if I believe that, and if I have struggles with perfection and wanting to hit this mark that I'll never hit, that causes me sometimes to judge myself. And so if I judge myself, then I can only imagine that I'm not the only believer that does that. And when people judge themselves harshly, they likely, not all the time, but they can judge others harshly. They can hold others to a standard that they'll never meet. They can decide that others need to do things in this seemingly perfect way in order to be all right, or in order to be in right standing with God. And they are not the marker of who is in right standing with God. If you actually profess faith, then we all are seen as Jesus when God looks at us. So we're all in right standing with the Father, which is why he can allow us to do things in a different way, so we can show others, we can be a mirror to them that, hey, I'm living my life how I'm living it, and I'm in right standing with God. And he says that you can do the same thing. Like, that's the gospel, right? Is that Jesus actually wore perfection for us, so we didn't have to. As I just start to think about, like, okay, why do Christians scare me for real, for real? And it's like, oh, because I might not live up to their standard. They're gonna judge me. And I start to be like, well, where's the judgment coming from? And it's like, oh, because they're likely, not always again, but they could be judging themselves. And so that's where this mark is coming from. But it's all out of this desire to please God. What helped me is to remember that Jesus lives inside of me. That's where the mark comes from. That's where the compass comes from on how I'm supposed to live and what I'm supposed to do. And am I doing it in this fashion or in that fashion? Am I doing it in this city or that city? Am I talking to these people or those people? Jesus that's living inside of me allows me to know that, not other people, right? And so you need other people to call you out on your stuff. When you out of order, you need people. God gonna send you people to say, sis, you out of order, right? So he'll do that. He will send people to confirm when you are in order and you're thinking yourself out of alignment. He'll send people. And so you need Christian community 100%. You need them, right? And so they're not to intimidate you, because they're your family. They are your people. They are the ones who aren't your compass, but they're journeying along with you down your path. And so it's very, very, very important to not be intimidated by family. And I think that's another thing with our earthly family. A lot of us we get some scared tactics from our mamas and my daddies, our aunties and our uncles, okay? They be like, I'll get that belt, I'll do this, I'll do that. And you're like, like, please don't hurt me. And so we get fearful in sharing things with them. We get fearful and we don't feel safe, because I know what family looks like. Oh, Christians is family. I know about family. And let me tell you, family don't have your back all the time. Family does not allow you to express yourself if it's out of how everybody else, all the generations before me, have expressed themselves. But when you're in the family of Christ, when you're walking with God, this family operates a little bit, it's supposed to operate a little bit differently, because the arm in the body is not supposed to mirror the eye, and the eye is never going to be the hand, and the hand can never do what the leg does, right? And so there needs to be pockets and space for us to exist differently from one another. And when we shrink back, which the word tells us not to do, then it doesn't allow for that, and it actually further perpetuates this idea that we all need to worship God, honor him, revere him, and glorify him in the same way. God is so creative, and I'm so thankful that he's as creative as he is. And so I think, now I ain't God, but if I was, I would want my people to commune with me, talk to me in a bunch of different ways, right? And that's why you have people who, they are in fashion. I think about Jerry Lorenzo, and he does fashion. I don't do fashion, okay? I want to look good, but I'm not a fashion girly. I'm not glorifying the Lord in that way. Like, that's not my life's work, is to honor him with clothing, right? With his creative pursuit and with how he communes with God, fashion is just a unique thing for him. When I think about pastors, they speak and I speak, but we speak in different ways, right? Our call is different. And so if I was to compare myself, how I prepare for YouTube or whatever, to how Sarah Jakes Roberts prepares for Woman Evolve, different call, right? And so I would fail if that's the case, because I'm allowing what others do and how they commune with God to be the marker for me. And I'll be scared, actually not even because of anything that they did or anything they said, but because I am allowing myself to judge myself based on what I will perceive they'll judge me on, because I would fail based on what God has set them up to do. And so what's helped me is knowing that Jesus is inside of me. And so when I feel an umption or a gumption to do something, to start a podcast or to speak on YouTube or to MC and host events, which I'm really loving right now, that I don't have to be fearful that that's not the right way to do things, because that's the destiny way. And that's the way that God wants to communicate with me. That's the way that he wants to deposit things in me. That's the way he's calling things out of me. That gets really powerful when you think about that. And then how does that translate on the outside? When you stand in your power, when you stand in your uniqueness, when you stand in your call, when you stand in how you're supposed to walk with him, and that gets less scary, because by yourself, your own journey, that can be scary, right? Yet alone trying to compare and contrast to make what other people may want you to do, or how you just are like, oh, I want to be like them, right? It's scary on your own, because y'all know God gonna call you to do some crazy stuff. And so when you have that God's on the inside and he's guiding how people are going to interact with me on the outside, it makes the fears shrink. Like, they just get so small, like they just don't compare. And when you think about David, who was anointed to be a king, and Saul, who was anointed to be a king, they both found themselves on a battlefield. And when they were on a battlefield, they both were facing the same giant, Goliath. And Saul used armor. When you think about armor and like the olden days, and like you think about this big gaudy piece of head to toe heavy weighted armor, that is what Saul would have used to fight Goliath. And because of that, he offered his armor to David, because David decided, hey, Goliath, I got that, it's all good, I'll handle it. And Saul said, perfect, I'm glad that you're handling it, because I don't want to handle it. And so take this armor. I see you as this great man of valor. We're both on the battlefield. We're in the same place. We're doing the same thing. And that's what Christians are, right? We are all believing that Jesus he saved our souls, and we want to live for him. So we're in the same place, earth. We're doing the same thing, trying to glorify God with our lives. And so there'll be times where either people will try to offer their armor to you, or because you're trying to live so right and you're looking around at your brothers and sisters, you will be like, oh, I need armor. If that's what I'm trying to do, because there's a Goliath, we have an enemy in front of us. And so for me to be armed up, I have to wear what they wear. I have to do what they do. Or people will tell you, for you to be armed up, you need to do what I do. You need to say what I say. And what I love about David and Goliath is that he didn't put the armor on. when he went to face Goliath. It wasn't what he needed in order to do what he needed to do, even though he was in the same place and had the same goal as everybody else. And he used a slingshot. And the slingshot seems foolish when you're on a battlefield and you got a giant standing in front of your face. It don't seem wise. It don't seem smart. It doesn't seem like the natural order to do things, but it's what works for him. And not only did he just decide, I'm going to be different and I'm going to rebel against the natural order. That's not what happened. What happened was, before he found himself at that place doing that thing, he had encountered God already. And in that encounter, he had a job to do, which was protecting sheep. He was a shepherd. And in that protection, he had a tool. And that tool was a slingshot. And in him steadily using that tool, he built up his confidence, he built up his trust, he built up his faith. And so as he was facing this thing that he never faced before, as he had to go forward and do something that was intimidating and it was hard, he had something on the outside that looked foolish to everybody else, that was built up because of the relationship that he had on the inside. And that's the goodness of God. That's the sweetness of him, that you could have something built up in you before you even knew who he was. And when you know who he is and you decide, all right, I'm living for you for real, for real. I don't know why I'm tearing up. Then he's like, I want you to not change. You don't have to change everything about you. I want you to use what you had before and use it for what you're trying to do now. It'll work. I'll back you. I got you. I used to write before and I used to talk. I talk all the time. And God is calling me to do that for him now. And that was very scary for me because I thought that I needed to do it like everybody else. I still think that, if I'm keeping it a buck. And it stops me some days from picking my camera up. It stops me from talking about what I'm doing because I don't think I'm doing it like everybody else. And I don't even think it's that unique, right? I just don't think it's cookie cutter all the time either. It's a weird thing. I don't think, some days I'm like, it ain't unique enough. And I'm trying to put the armor on because I feel like I need it. And then there are other days where I feel like people are trying to tell me what to do, or they're trying to put me in this box. And that's just not, that's not the way. And so I thought about Kirk Franklin. And Kirk Franklin, now I was born in 94. So I don't exactly know all the ways of like how Christian music was done before, right? But I do know that on his journey, people was like, this is how music is done if you're trying to glorify the Lord. And he introduced a new sound and we are stomping to it today. But he had to dare to not to put the armor on that people were trying to give him when he went into the booth to record. I just wanted to speak to y'all. If you clicked on this video and believers scare you, if you are intrigued about God, but you have had encounters and moments with believers and they got you thinking that our God is one-dimensional, or that the faith is one-dimensional, that you can only walk one way. If you want to say, Yahweh, I'm here to tell you, to tell myself that God is so creative. He made, how many birds are there? He made birds that are different from giraffes, right? But there's so many different species of birds, of flowers, even the clouds. There's different type of clouds for the different days that we have on the earth. The sun rises every day, but there's different degrees and there's different ways that we encounter the sun, right? There are different singers, but you got altos, then you got sopranos. There are photographers, but there are some who do lifestyle. There are some who do portraits, right? God is so creative. He made us to be creative and we can commune with him in different ways. And so if you are feeling intimidation from this walk, if you're feeling intimidation from your curiosity, right? You're curious, but your curiosity is sparking you to want to seek God maybe in a different way than what you've seen out on YouTube or on TV, or from what your mom and them was doing. I want to tell you that God doesn't push you away because of that. That judgment that you feel may be from others or it may be self-imposed, but it's not from God. God invites us into intimate space with him. And as we get in that intimate space, we'll realize just how much Jesus has been guiding us every step of the way. And then as we live that out, we can inspire others to do the same thing. So don't get scared. Don't let the enemy trick you into thinking that there's only one way to do this thing and that there's this thing that's going to come. Everybody won't always agree with each other, and that's just the real about it. But that doesn't mean that you're not called. It doesn't mean that God's not real. It doesn't mean that he doesn't see you, that he doesn't hear you. You are here for a reason, and you're supposed to do exactly what you're doing. And so I love you. I love you. I love you. Remember to stand authentically in who you are and that God sees you. Don't forget to profess your power, and there's power in prose. Bye.